Alright, today we're going to be working on functions and math. This is going to help us practice making our own functions. We should already know how to do simple math. I'll go over just a little bit of it. So if you had, let's say total is equal to 4 plus 4, and then if you just print out total, print, and I want to see what the variable total holds, it should just be 8. 4 plus 4 should be 8. There it is. If you change the numbers over here on the side, 4 plus 12, it's going to be 16. And then you can also do the same with addition and subtraction. I'll change that to a subtraction symbol. Now it's -8. If I want to do division, I would just put division here. I don't know. If I wanted to do multiplication, I would just change this to multiplication. Alright, so we can do all of those fairly simple, but we're going to create a function, and you might already know how to do it, you might not. I'm going to show you how we're going to make these functions, and you'll get a little bit of practice in. So it says create 4 custom functions that will do some simple math. And then it says create an adding function. Give myself a little bit of room here, and I'm going to say DEF. You'll notice that that's a keyword and it turns blue. That means we're creating a function to do something for us. So we're going to define a function. I'm going to give it a name. The function's name I'm going to say is adding. And then just like the other functions that are already built into Python, it ends with a set of parentheses and then a colon. The colon denotes the next part that comes is going to be a part of adding, or whatever you put in the function. So we're going to make an adding function. So this is, we have just created adding, or I'm going to say the adding function. Alright, so we've made the adding function. Now we need to give it the ability to add. Now, you'll notice that if I push enter at the end of the comment, it brings me all the way to the left. That's not inside of this adding function. If this comment was not here, if I move this down, you'll see that if I push enter at the end of the colon, it moves you over automatically. That's where you want to be. And Python spacing tells you whether you are inside of something or not. It's kind of like the brackets for other languages. So I'm going to push enter at the end of the comment and tab over. So now I am actually inside of this function. So what I'm going to put in here is I'm going to put total is equal to x plus y. Okay, so just like I did before, I had total is equal to 4 plus 5. This looks very similar to this right here. Now, we don't know what x and y are, and technically we don't know what total is, but total is just going to be taking x and y and adding them together. So in order for this function to work, we're going to need to get some information from the user or from the code that comes up when we use this function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, whenever I call the function adding, so let's say I wanted to use this function, so I'm going to do adding, and then what do I want to add? Well, that's what's going to go inside of the parentheses. So I would say 5 comma 4. Now you'll notice here on my function I don't have any variables inside of there, but I'm sending the adding function 2 numbers, which are going to be represented by x and y. So whenever I create this function inside of the adding variable, I need to put x comma y. and those are represented by 5 for the x and 4 for the y. So now whenever I've made this adding function, I know that I need to give it two numbers so it can add those two numbers together and put it into total. Now, after this function is done, what's going to happen is it's going to add x and y and store it into total, but it's not sending any information back to us. So we need it to return some information to us. So I'm going to type return. You're going to notice that is blue. What do we want to send? Well, we want to send whatever the total of the two were. So I'm going to put total here. So when we call the adding function, we just need to put two numbers in here, and that is x and y, and then we can do some type of calculation on the inside, and we're going to send back what the total of those two added were. So if I type adding and I run this program, what it's going to do is it's going to add the two, but we're never going to see it. Why would we not see it? We never actually printed it out. Like if we hit run, it did it, we just didn't get to see it. So all you need to do to actually see what you've done is in front of this adding here, you can type print, and then there's my adding function, adding 4 and 5, and if I hit run, it's going to now say 9. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to try and reiterate what I just did a little bit more. You'll notice that this says x plus y. I'm going to add another x here. So now it says x plus y plus x. Now, we know in our adding function that the first number that we send it is x, and the second number is y. So this one is going to be x is 5, so it's going to be 5 plus 4 plus 5. So when it sends us total, it's no longer going to be 9, it should be 14. See there? So this is a adding function. We only sent it two variables, but we happen to use the variable x 2 times. Now you can also change the numbers that you're sending it. Let's say I send it 8. So now if I go up here, it's going to be 8 plus 4 plus 8. So that would be 16 plus 4. So the answer should be 20. There it is. All right. So this is how you can create a simple adding function. Perfect. Let's move on to the next one and see if we can do what we did again, but instead we're going to create a subtracting function. Now, one of the reasons why I like to do it multiple times is it kind of gives you guys a better idea of how to create this. So I recommend that when you do this, you don't just copy and paste. Try and write it from your memory, and then if you can't remember, go back and look. That'll help you remember. Okay, so we want to create a subtracting function. So DEF starts us off. So that means I want to create a function, and I'm going to call this function hammer time. I'm using the word hammer time to prove to you that it doesn't matter what you call it. Now, it is important that you name it appropriately, but I'm making a point here. So our function is hammer time, and I need to subtract some numbers. I'm going to use fish, comma, broom. So in this function, whenever I say hammer time, I need two things. I need a fish and I need a broom. Man, that's confusing. Let's keep going. So what I want to do here is I want to do total is equal to fish minus broom. And then I want to return the total. I went ahead and left it as total because it's already getting confusing. Okay, so now if I want to do a subtraction problem, I would say hammer time, and I want to know what 10 take away 5 is. Now remember, when we did this, if you don't actually print it out, it's gonna run, but it's not gonna do anything. So let's do print 10 take away 5, or in our case, for our function that we created, fish minus broom is going to be 5. Now this is confusing because I used some silly variable names, or I used some silly names. Now my program works just perfect, doesn't it? If I did fish minus broom minus broom, that means it's going to be 10 minus 5 minus 5. So that should be 0. Yep. So whenever you create the names for your functions and for the numbers that go inside, you want to use words that make sense. So instead of saying hammer time, I'm going to say subtraction, or maybe you like the word minus, or take away. That's kind of long. Sometimes coders, when they make their programs, they make simple things, so they don't have to type so much. Every time they want to subtract, they don't want to type take away every single time. Instead of using fish, I like using X and Y. You could use A and B. You can use whatever letters you want. But this just looks a little bit cleaner. And you'll notice I used capital letters here, so I'm going to have to use capital letters in here as well. So A and B and B. Run, and that should still be 0. So I'm going to leave mine like this. All right, 10 minus 5 is 5. All right, 2 more. Hopefully you have the idea of how to do these now. We only need to make 2 more for division and multiplication. So starting off, DEF to create the function. Multiply is what I'm going to call this one. I'm going to send it 3 this time. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And what do I want to do with my, oops, I forgot my colon. How I can tell is whenever I pushed enter, it didn't move me over. So it ends with a colon. I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to say total is equal to X times Y times Z. And I want to return total. Means I'm sending it back. So I'm sending it 3 numbers. It's going to multiply all 3 of those numbers together, and it's going to send me back what the total of that is. So if I want to see what that is, so I'm going to do print multiply, and then the numbers I want to multiply are, I have to send it 3. If I only send it 1 number, or if I only send it 2 and not 3, it should give me an error and say, hey, you didn't give me enough information. See right there? So you need to make sure that you send it the correct number of arguments. So if I run 1 times 2 times 3. All right, there's our multiplication function. This works. Now, just to emphasize, you can do this multiple times. You could say like that, run that 30. So I've made a function that every time I run it, it does the same procedure over and over again. Oops, that was supposed to be my division function. I did the multiplication one. I did it out of order. That's okay. Let's do the next one. I'll do division for this next one. I'm sure some of you were screaming at your computer screen. Okay, DEF division, and I am going to I'll use two numbers just for simplicity, x and y. So what I'm going to do is total is equal to x divided by y. And I want to return the total. Let's do print. We want to print out the division of, and I'll show you that you can actually use variables. So you could use number, I can do number underscore 1 is equal to 50, and number underscore 2 is equal to 25. So now if I say I want to know the division of number 1 and number 2. So what it's going to do here is it's going to take number 1, which I stored it as it's a variable, and this variable holds the number 50. Then number 2, which holds the number 25. 50 divided by 25 should be 2. There it is. So not only can you don't have to put numbers in there, you can also put variables. All right, that is going to be the end of this assignment. What you need to do is take a screenshot of the work that you just completed and make sure you send me your link. All right, guys, have a great day.